Alright, welcome to the stream, everyone. In just a while, so I'll adjust a few things before we start. But today's agenda is properly set already. So rest assured, those are the things we are aiming to do in the next few minutes or in an hour. Let's see. All right. I'll try to verify the sound balances. Oh. Uniohjelmaa. That's what you get. So now it depends on how fast our viewers can catch sleep. If everything goes perfectly fine, then this is going to be a very good stream. And very short one as well. 0 errors. Alright. So I presume everything is set. And now we have a quality player to inform us if there are any things that are awry. So based on the last few days, we have learned that throwing units to their deaths left and right is one way to play the game, but not necessarily the most optimal one. So that's something that I could try to focus on in order to improve, to slowly reach a level where there might be other things to focus on instead of having to struggle with the places where I play myself in, or the situations. Okay, so Slavs against Persians. Now, this reminds me of another goal that I had, or a thing I realized that if I were to create scouts, for example, which is something that the Slavs are capable of doing, and cavalry units in general, could be that they have other even better advantages that will hit me eventually. But still, in order to create scouts, for example, that cost only food, I would have to create plenty of farms, and if I were to create aforementioned farms, then I would probably have plenty of food to create villages, for example. So I wouldn't have to struggle with having 4 idle TCs and 50 villagers against 100 or so that my opponent has to throw at me, or that are working to my opponent's favor. Because yesterday's games, oh no. Well, small minor details. Everything's going exactly as planned. Because these turkeys don't count. I'm allowed to waste them as per my own ruling. This villager, on the other hand, oh well. So this is the one we would very much enjoy under our TC. No villager lost, some idle time on the TC. That is to be expected at this hour. But I realized that trying to create very clever Ashura plays had this problem of forcing me to create, or encouraging me to collect wood and gold, which are generally quite this is very friendly way to play the game, but okay, I will allow it. The losses are still lesser than they would have been if I had my boar lure in the similar fashion that I had yesterday. But since the opponent is Persians, I'm afraid that they're doing some sneaky douche, meaning that they will delete their town center, their initial or the original town center, and then drop their replacement one right next to mine, since that's a strategy that Persians can do, because they have more HP, so life in there, or more, what's the correct word for that? Well, their town centers are stronger than others, so they can take more damage without collapsing. So if one wants to play in that manner, they have more tools or benefits to help them with. But well, we shall see. Perhaps that was just a douching attempt trying to steal my boar, which is also something that very professional players might do. Oh yeah, I'm missing the second building. Yes, makes sense. Okay. So time to rethink my life choices. But yeah, so there are a few things that I could expect from my opponent based on the civilization alone, and the fact that instead of pushing the deer that I'm trying to attempt here with my scout, he was willing to sacrifice some life force of his, now assuming that Fibanx is he, but who knows. But still exciting times, so I'll go check what's going on the other end of the map, while also very cunningly preparing myself for the next steps. I would presume that people would expect Slavs to create a plenty of farms because we happen to have a bonus on that front. As you can read if you can, that the farmers work that much more faster than ordinary farmers do. It has to do with their heritage, I presume. So on one hand, it might make sense to create farmers. Okay, so this militia probably aimed to cause havoc at my base, but we are obviously not falling for that. Or we are disturbing our capable opponent just a bit. And as we were not supposed to do, but are doing nevertheless, we have this very cunning idea of creating a few archers. Even if we might be a bit late on that. Just passing. My opponent is very clever, as you can tell. There's already there are farms all over the base. There are walls. We're doing everything right, whereas we are just a bit wasteful, as we have a right to be. Being early games and whatnot. First game and early game. But to me this, instead of being a very clever well, very clever tricky build, it seems that my valiant opponent is focusing on fast castling and then hitting me with, I don't know, horses, perhaps. Let's see what happens. But the 3 militia that we faced earlier are gone. I don't know where they went. Could have kept track of them, but now it's obviously too late. And we also could have created a few more farms to help us with the next steps that we have. Okay, so it's men at arms already, and they are probably able to read there's also a tower already. Oh, this is weird. Yeah, I don't mind having men at arms at their base. But one of the plans was not to be wasteful, and now indeed I have been a bit, but only a little. And now what we are trying to do is to be annoying. And by annoying, in this case, I mean by trying to harass the stone miners. And also, since we did notice that they do have a lumber camp that need forest, and that's also something that we could try to do. Da 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 da. Hello. So it seems like castles is the play. don't know why anyone would otherwise spend much time collecting stone at this point. But we'll see. And we are still lacking what? A market, of course. No, we weren't. Well, it's still handy to have around, so. It's still having this many men at arms is a bit surprising to me, but especially since they are chasing me behind their base. So not something that I might recommend people to do. The greatest day of my life. And I can only hope that that applies to you as well. Oh no, my greatest ambush was discovered and destroyed. And I never did do fletching, even though I thought I did. Well, hey ho. Next time. And now I'm a bit puzzled by the opponent's goal. Not in life, but in this game, because they still haven't reached Castle Age, which I presumed they would have done by now, and sticking to this men at arms plays is confusing as well, since I don't see how that would be very effective against what I now have to throw at them. But that could also be because I'm not too good in this game as of now. Okay, this is what we need, yes. We need saw and other things. And then the master plan, of course, is to switch from the crossbows to something totally different. Okay, and it might have been that the stone gathering idea stemmed from the fact that they did build this initial tower to secure farming eco, so perhaps that's the reason. And now they are probably creating skirmishers to stop my archer play, which is a very valiant thing to do, or clever thing to do. And what we could try to do behind this is to create some horses, for example, just for the sake of it. Since I mentioned that. Ooh, now that I didn't. Just looking away for 5 minutes and suddenly I've lost my units. What is this? But what I was trying to say was that spending some resources to auto create. If I were to spend time to create enough farms, then with that economy I should be able to create a plenty of horses with with at least somewhat easiness. So that's what we are trying to do. And instead of building gazillion of town centers, we are only sticking to creating a few. And the archers might go there and cause some havoc, yes. And then we are expecting that our opponent doesn't have means to stop this very surprising move of having various horses approach them, but that of course remains to be seen as well. But I think that I wasted some time since we hit the castle age a couple of minutes before them. Then we could have created something more potent than what we did with the archers. So they are still having swordmen, which is alright. One can have units such as that. And there are the skirmishers. That shouldn't be too much of a problem against what we have to throw at them at this stage. Overall I'd say this is going quite well, since we are able to harass our opponent on multiple fronts. They have faced severe losses. There are multiple town centers, but I don't know if that's going to be enough to replenish their the losses they have faced. Let's see. Usually I'm on the other or the receiving end of such a note, so that's the best experience I have to back my theory. Let's see. And I should probably be watching the things taking place or happening in the enemy's village, but we will have time to do that later on. And off we go. Oh, so we are more or less alive. Monk. Alright. And we can lose a few without that being a source of well, any trouble basically. And we could probably also try to harass our opponent's gold. I don't know if it makes much sense to fight under their town centers, but we are reaching a point where we don't have to care too much. I'd claim. No, we don't need that. Some more farms, that's a good idea. And perhaps a few... Well. That was a surprising game. Especially since yesterday I was able to lose practically all few games that I played without having much to say. So mental things, I was expecting that today would be a very similar in that fashion. But what do you know? So the most exciting part of this exercise is to see what actually happened. So we had an edge on every other front besides army numbers, and yet again I was able to lose twice the amount of units that my opponent did. So I think that if I had not felt so sure reaching Castle Age and making the cavalry switch, I could have tried to act more responsibly and combine my forces and not just fight under their TC against their and right next to the production buildings as well. That gave Fibanx a chance to get back to the game in that sense. Well, I was a bit surprised based on the the feudal time was one villager faster basically, so perhaps I was just a bit slow myself. Goes to show that my understanding of the game is not that great, because I sometimes have to wonder about the reasoning behind my opponent's choices. Alright, so what's going to happen is fast forward through the game just to see if there was something that tipped the scales in my favor. Well, at least the blue scout started really early, but there are still a few pets to be found, so turkeys in this case, and here he is ready to get rid of my valuables, which is something that we can see in tourneys, tournaments, heralded in the last one that I watched. So no, that wasn't. That's not correct. Neely's apartment cup was the one where he had this trademark move of running under the TC and killing and getting these headables killed by the TC arrow fire, or just running away with them, stealing them once the villagers hop to the town center. So I don't know if Fibanx was trying to achieve a similar thing here, or whether it was just looming, or no, not looming, but laming, or searching for a target for the man-at-arms rush. But then if he were, then I don't know why he didn't utilize them. Because at the moment there's no reason to leave them be here. Unless he's trying to create more, which seems to be the case. And from my experience, this is a very unorthodoxical beginning or opening as well. Perhaps that's what gave me the chance to succeed in the game, in this game. So we have 6 men-at-arms doing nothing, preemptive tower. While basically the army numbers were, and the quality of armor was in his favor, so there was no need, I'd say, for the tower. But it was probably a preemptive one, just to try to secure the few farms that we had invested in, and also the slight edge of the forest. Okay, and there we run past each other. And what's the reaction now? So the stone miners are, well, the reaction was to call the men at arms back home, and my advice would rather be just to press on, because there are plenty of places where damage could be dealt. I had no walls, I was playing this open, so having 6 men at arms in my base would have forced me to do at least more clicking and panicking and throwing away units, villagers and whatnots. So instead of turning back halfway across the map, then that's what I would have at least tried to do, I presume. And now I could have moved just a few inches forward, and then would have noticed that the other forest has been utilized or is underutilization, and would have been a more fruitful target instead of staying at the stone piles. But I was of course very busy doing other important work, so that should give me a pass. And now that I have a total of 7 crossbowmen and 1 on the way, the reaction is to create archery range and start to produce skirmishers. Now of course that once I was able to see that, that was a very solid reason not to carry on with this way of gameplay that I had initially begun with. But this is something, since I was able to have this hassle-free game at home. The only action and the only pressure that I got was the initial scout disturbing my head of balls in the 3rd minute of the game, perhaps. I was able to keep on producing, but what I could have done while building farms and town centers would have been to utilize the scout, because had I moved just a few screens here and there, this is still a very safe area to move now that I can see everything. I would have noticed that there are quite a few woodcutters, 20 in this forest, and not all of them can fit in the tower, and on just positioning a few archers behind this wood line would have made it very painful to try to collect wood, since there was this threat of having a few archers that can cause some idle time to the villagers that I was luckily able to keep alive for quite some time. Oh yeah, this was on attack stance, that explains things. Oh yeah, but yeah, so far kill death ratio is looks good for me, and that's basically because for every military unit that I lost, I was able to kill a villager from my opponent. And now this is just a troll fest in a sense that I have units that just run in and try to cause idle time. But thing worth noticing probably at the moment is that the idle town center time is quite even though I thought that I caused a massive economic damage. And perhaps I did, but they were able to keep it calm and keep on producing nevertheless. But the worker efficiency, all the idle time, it could have been worse. I think I thought that it would be way worse than it is, but having worker efficiency of 60%, as we can tell from the corner of the capture aces statistics, tells that there has been a lot of back and forth running, and with the combination of units, there's only now pikemen coming to join the party. That would have been a tough game for me to lose, I'd say. Not impossible if I had stopped the pressuring and gave my opponent a chance to get back to the game, but having twice the villagers and finally a farming eco to be proud of, at least on my standards. I should have been able to produce that much more much more quality units, at least for the time being, and throwing in some cavalry archers, for example, just for the sake of it. But okay, GG, and now I realize that I didn't call GG when the game ended, so that's a omission and mistake on my sportsmanship. Huh. Well, one more thing to add to the list of things to improve. Improve on. So eager to check the replay that I lost my train of thought about friendship and politeness and all those neat things. Well, you play, you learn. And the other thing I was interested in, just throwing units is one thing. The army high for my opponent was solid, almost twice the number that I got, 25 against 15. So I could have used my force in a more respectful manner, because that's something that I'm going to need in the later stages in the years to come. But also the actions per minute, because there has been a solid clicking feast on Fibanx keyboard. So something to try to improve on as well. Just in order to save some units here and there, since there were multiple moments when I was placing farms or doing something not perhaps time consuming but not time critical, and while doing that my opponent was getting rid of my army, so having a few shortcuts, control groups, and utilizing them would have given me a chance to command my army to run away, for example. Would have been handy. That. Okay, so GG's in this more posthumous fashion. It's never too late. That's why we have these recordings. And then I propose we try again and see what happens. One thing I noticed when I've been checking the opponent's post-game or post-stream, seeing what sort of games they have had before and what sort of skill level they might have, is that people sometimes tend to choose the same civilizations, for example, and grind similar maps with them, as was the case with yesterday's arena game against a person whose name I have forgotten for now, who, based on the last 5 games or so, had been honing the skills in Spanish. I would think that that's a very good strategy to, or tactic to employ when you're trying to learn the basics of the game and also the more fine nuances of the game. So nothing wrong with that. But it's also an exciting thing, because on the other hand I think that I'm somewhat wasting time here playing randomized civilizations and random maps and trying to learn the harder way, and harder meaning that I would have to memorize things about the different civilizations, their capabilities, the layout of maps, their specialities, how many boars they have and what have you. Are there any border like here we have? 4 lakes. The last time I played this happened yesterday, and to my surprise, the opponent quit or dropped after a few minutes, just when I was trying to starting to explain and wonder about the build orders and what should one do when there's any water around the map. But now I'm more prepared, since I had a chance to talk about the map for a full 30 seconds, perhaps you can check from the stream. But what were the civilizations? So I'm Goths and they are Italians. Now Goths, of course, are usually expected to employ their infantry due to the discounts, and that would be a solid thing to do. But now that we expect our opponents to know their game's basics, at least, we have a chance to try to mind game them a bit, instead of doing the most obvious one this time, or in this case meaning doing the infantry opening. We can yet again try to do archers and see where that takes us. Now I'm not quite sure what should our plan be regarding the lakes, because this is a potentially longer lasting game due to the fact that there are 4 lakes around in the corners of the map, and you can very easily fish using those, and the feast can last quite long, and it takes some time to let's do this, and it takes some time to get the map up and running, so to say. Because you need to collect wood earlier, and it takes time to build all these docks, and all that is time not spent building an army. So the thing we could try to do here to surprise our opponent is to try to do some sort of fast, or at least faster aggression. And since we are gods, it would be really nice to try to utilize the archers, since we are like leery but not as good. Very fond of the idea of doing a surprise archery play. Not one that you can learn from the books probably, but because it's not too well thought of, perhaps, but or not too well. There are plenty of sheep. Well, or suffice to say that there might be even better ways to do the archery build than the way I'm utilizing. We are also missing dock, so that's what we do this very instant. And then we hope that by some magical way we are able to get enough food to get to the next age as well, because that's what we need. Progression. So now we could try to verify what our opponent is doing. And then off we go. This was a bit more I'd like to think that we didn't have to create this many anything, but well, oh, and we also skipped loom, but who would dare to try to attack us at this stage of the game? Okay, so we did catch a glimpse of our opponent. Alright, cold and everything, yes, and they are being alert. It's very good for them, good for their health. That's exactly how you are supposed to be. And the feudal age progression was faster than ours. try to check whether the lakes are being utilized. Alright. Ordered this guy over there to prepare for the archery ranges, but all of a sudden it seems that we could have used her capabilities. Okay. We are quite late without archers, but no worries. It might still work. And off we go. So there are 2 dots here, alright. And they also should have their no, that we don't need. They should have their scout around, but we don't need either. Even still we don't need it. And we have the buildings, so we could try to build a market. That would be neat, but we don't have means for that. Dun 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 dun. Alright, we still don't have the buildings. And now this is the moment where we should be more careful than we usually are. Their scout is here, good for them. We are running out of fishing ships to create, or the room for them. And the archers are still here. Okay, skirmishers, we don't care about those. So let's just run away. And once we get the market, we should be able to change the ages. Took us a... well... oh no. Oh, that was a waste. No worries. And we didn't even need to sell. That was just a habit. So there's that archer, that one's a gunner. And now they might think that we don't know what we are doing, and they would be somewhat right. Since archer opening is not this very standard thing to do, we were also lacking the, well, somewhat relevant upgrades, perhaps. She's also been idle for quite some time. Well, so bloodlines it is, and then double scout production. A very clever thing to do. Now we will camp the forest and see what our opponent has prepared for us. A few few scouts, indeed. Welcome to the party. Few houses top got everything off. And they also have some annoying things going on here, so we will react accordingly. So some spears they have. And house walls. Let's try to run straight to their base. Town center, thank you, and another one. Why not? And then we are also in need of stone. And here my surprise attack was perhaps a bit wasteful, since we alarmed them of our coming, but well, don't matter. Some civilian losses still happened, and we should have the next raiding force nearby. And then of course what should happen, alright. Well, these we should just try to get rid of these. See what's going on here. Now we can try to avoid their army. Just focusing on the villagers. Thank you very much. Now I have forgotten to create more units. And there have been some idle villagers here and there. Which is of course a very sad thing to occur. But I would claim that this has been a rather successful opening already. And more armies on the way. They probably have their army nearby to secure the castle building. Or not. Well, nearby but not close. So even more villages are going down, which is nice news for me. And they will get their no, we don't need to do that yet. So they will get their castle, but at what price, or with what price? And we are still lacking the Bosar, yes. We should soon have a castle of our own, or resources for a castle of our own. which is also a good thing to have. Let's see that. Yes. Some more upgrades would be nice. For that we can probably try to do upgrade shots as these. A defensive castle to begin with, and then we have what it takes to create this, yes. And now we can probably prepare for the push. Longswordman, yes, welcome to the party. And off we go with the huge army that we got. Ooh, but they are also paying us a visit. So the castle was very well timed, I'd claim. And little did they know that we are about to hit theirs. Dun, 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 dun. And we can probably create a few skirmishes just for the sake of it. So now they have created Genoese crossbowmen, but they are mostly good against cavalry, so they pose us with no threat. I'd claim, I may be wrong, but that's my initial feeling. And now they are hitting my fishing economy, but that doesn't matter. It might, perhaps it should matter, but to me it doesn't. And the castle is still up, but not for long. How? This? Yes. And then we shall carry on with this. Okay, so a few villagers lost, which is a terrible thing. But do we care about that? Oh yeah, we don't have too many people gathering food anymore. So that was a very clever thing from their side. Now that I think of it. So cavalry it is. So town center is down. And perhaps the Haskell spam can continue for quite some more time. So they do think that I would need food, but not from ordinary sources. Of course, because I've been preparing. But that's a lie. I'm relying on the gold and the market. But and now I'm probably being a bit wasteful with my units again, but I think this looks rather promising at this point. I don't know though what's going on with my opponent. Like, are they doing something that I'm not aware of but should be aware of? Let's find out. Well, I'm very glad that we got to try this anti-meta approach. So first, doing something unexpected of sorts, Alright, we still have these fishermen, fishing ships. It just wasn't employing them. Do, 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 do. And once our opponent was thinking or hoping or perhaps thinking that we weren't going to utilize the infantry forces that our civilization has in its possession, then we hit with surprise move. At least that's how I'm going to tell the story, be it true or not. And now that we have a few castles at our base, it's probably a good idea to secure one at theirs as well. And this time GG is in order. So what did we have here? A dock and second town center at this emergency backup town center here. My dock that did nothing, but well, I had this long distance fishing man or fisherman carrying carrying our civilization on his shoulders, because besides that we only had a few farms. So striking my fishing economy was a good thing to do, because I didn't have that many farms. I didn't have food. My economy was off balanced or ill balanced in a fashion that I collected much more gold than I had a need for, but luckily I did have this market introduced to the gaming community by Doubt, and was able to save the day with that. Otherwise, having 3 barracks and not being able to produce anything from that would have been a bit sad. Very typical, but also sad. Now, units lost looks very similar to what we are slowly trying to get rid of, but are grown accustomed to. But largest army has also been 38, so closing, or when the game was slowly closing, the army number was, I presume, able to increase to a more healthy and dreadful looking number. Economy was in our favor, but based on the timing that Colin had getting to feudal age a solid minute before me, and to castle age, well, only some 10-20 seconds before me, but still tells me that he had a clue, perhaps a solid build order to. I mean, when comparing to the last game, I was lacking on villages. The few fishing ships that I did have were not good. They weren't enough to help, and it seems that we were quite even. Well, we'll have to. Let's see, did we get any replies? No. Let's see how this looks on the capture ages, or with the information that it gives us. we more or less know what I did, but we are curious to know what our opponent was trying to do. So we have scouting, yes. Can't act too surprised here, and since I'm not too familiar with good build orders, I don't know what to make from the fact that there are 11 workers in 4 on wood. To help secure the dock, yes, and fishing ships, yes, at 60 minutes. Whereas for me it took considerable time longer to produce the first capabilities for fishing. Only now building the dock and the first ships are queued. 15 on wood and 10 on food, whereas I have 10 and 14. So I'm relying much more on the more ordinary, like standard means of gathering resources and underutilizing the water, as we can tell from the picture when comparing this lackluster fishing fleet of mine to Collins. Alright, but now the first thing to do was to add archery range, whereas my opponent is focusing on creating additional fishing ships and slowly starting walling approach. Second dock has been built. And from the setup it seems to me that he was planning for a long game. At least longer than the one I had in mind, since I already have this huge army of 3 archers and 4 incoming and fletching. The first one is revealing himself, giving ample time for Colin to create archer range and start producing skirmishers to secure his base. Now at this point, when the first skirmisher was shown to me, I could have made a decision whether to invest to armor instead of just leaving things be. I also lost my scout for no reason, just having it around would have been enough. But perhaps this like this single archer here was really useful, as we can tell from the worker efficiency. Mine is only 60 due to the constant idling and the general shyness or attitude towards work that my civilization and its citizens share. But still, just having a single archer behind forest caused additional burden. Now he has a solid lead in army numbers. I would go as far as to say that he has over-invested at this point, because I only had a few archers and the starting scout. Now I have created more and I'm still creating more. I really didn't have need to do that, because already we have forced 2 archer ranges and a stable and a second, no, this is blacksmith, and a blacksmith is only now appearing. He has plenty of food, so this build is very good in that front. And what he could have done was perhaps created just 10 scouts, since there was this underutilized stable and he was floating a lot of food. But perhaps that was because he didn't have the resources to add additional town centers because of these military buildings. We would have to create, or we would have to check other games from him, or to verify whether that was the case. And yet again, the army is ill positioned and forced to retreat because of 4 scouts, which Colin could have created with the food that he had. He has a solid score lead at this point, so that the way he's approaching this map is very good. Having 17 fishing ships when comparing to mine 7. And now the only thing sort of lacking from him was a way to utilize those resources. So he has been kept off stone, and that's why I was able to... Ooh, and now he bought some stone, because this stone pile was impossible to utilize. I didn't notice that during the game. I should have noticed that, didn't. But that also gave me additional time to do this sort of harassing, because he wasn't able to get the castle he so dearly wanted. That's exciting. Now, so we can think that because he had these fishing ships and luckily lost a few in this bottom lake that I was able to discover, his town centers were late, because I'm already having 3, and now I'm slowly catching up in the economy numbers, or overcoming the fact that I didn't do that many fishing ships. So I played this map in atypical and non-optimized fashion. So it's nice to see that here and there are these like single villager picks that I failed to notice earlier. And then the starting lake is slowly losing the food that it had, only having some slightly under 700 left. Then there are these barracks. My opponent is creating Genoese crossbowmen soon, utilizing the market as well, that I also didn't notice, even though I could have if I had paid attention to that. So his army is suitable to stop any aggression that comes mounted on horse, and without noticing, it seems, can I manage to do it correctly? Yeah, so he still hasn't noticed that there are these forward buildings very close by, so perhaps this gives him additional insights to the value of scouting. But here I'm getting lucky, because I didn't know the true force that my opponent had. I only thought that I had dealt immense damage, but I discounted the value the fishing ships have, because this game is far from over at this point. But luckily I got this castle up and was able to avert the aggression that Colin was throwing at my way. And even though I'm also idling my economy and and not taking into account that perhaps, just perhaps, he's aiming to get rid of my fishing ships. The good thing is that this counterattack that managed to halt my fishing economy also meant that Colin had nothing to defend with as soon as those early crossbowmen were killed. I was lacking food. I should have bought some just to be able to create a like army large enough. Just like 20 longswordmen would have been better than having the small trickle of 1, 2, 3 here and there. But it was enough thanks to the fact that Colin didn't have time to destroy all these rams via the villagers. Just few longswordmen were enough to prevent them from getting destroyed. And now we are slowly getting a foothold in this game. And while we are still from economy or economical perspective we are quite even, the fish is running out and soon the fishing ships are going to be idle, and that's probably close to the moment when he decides that okay, this is enough. And well, looking at the game from this perspective shows quite well why he decided to carry on, because it was far from over. And I was just rotating these crossbowmen, hitting my stone miners, for example, trying to be annoying near the forest line. Would have made a difference. I could have easily lost 10 villages without noticing. And now we have fish traps to help with the lack of food. There's only one town center working, not enough food for another one, and market is soon to be destroyed, and that makes it that much more hard to balance your economy after losing the key ingredient. And now I'm just I'm not being very clever with my army, as you can tell. That's just soldiers slashing their swords around wherever they happen to be at. But that and so I in a way gave Colin a chance to recover by spending a minute or 2 or 3 destroying stuff that wasn't too relevant, because single crossbowman hero there wouldn't change the thing. And he's only now slowly retreating the 7-head army. That would have actually helped a lot. Now we are slowly getting to the point where I have this 24 headed army, which is a scary number in a sense that you can shoot and kill and run and be able to decrease the numbers quite fast, as we can see here. But we are approaching the critical mass that if I was commanding the army in a proper fashion, then he would have been forced to run that much more backwards. Okay, well this was well, very humbling experience, since I won. This castle placement was wrong. I should have placed it here, but well, one step at a time. And this would have gotten rid of all the production buildings and the centers of civilization, but still, one of the saving graces that I had was the fact that Colin underutilized his army. So once I had a few archers poking arrows at his direction, he created this 10 head or larger army and then stayed at home on defense. Whereas counterattacking me right away would have given him the edge, because I was playing open and they were starting from the dock position, and the lack of defenses around it, he could have easily harmed my fishing economy, for example. And then leaving the town with the crossbowmen when there was very little need to, just attacking or assaulting the dock. Perhaps he was expecting me to use the lakes more and felt like something had to be done. But once the men-at-arms and longswordmen appeared and rams, having 10 or 15 crossbowmen would have very easily killed the handful of swordmen that I had. And then my switch to infantry units would have looked really silly. So I was lucky in a sense that it worked, because my opponent this time went for the counterattack, and perhaps due to the fact that it didn't look too scary and had this urge to finish the game or try to equalize the damage or something of that sort, now made him attack when the proper course of action probably would have been to retreat, get rid of my men-at-arms, and then work from there, because he did have the economy lead at that point. Of course, that was about to end as soon as the fish ran out, because this is a huge investment, and had I carried on creating villagers, which is something that I omitted in order to create more longswordmen that I then just wasted. I feel like he could have still tried to just play it safe and boom, and then beat me 5 minutes later, perhaps, because the longswordman switch was really nice. Why not? But my economy wasn't there. It looked more scary than it actually was, I'd say. As you can tell from here, so the worker time was only slightly better for me, or percentage wise it was much better, but it only took a turn after the slightly after the half of the game, when things started to get messy on Colin's town. And without checking, I'd claim that this was about the time when the longswordman appeared on the scene, but I may be wrong. Yeah, because Castle Age. No, all these horses are here, and the longswordmen only appear here. Yeah, so I was wrong in my educated guess. a very good build on Colin's side. Clearly knows how to play the map. And next time he also knows how to prepare for this. So something else must be thought or think, or I'll have to think this through and prepare something else for the next encounter. But yeah, good news, now the current AVM is or the peak of my current AVM is 85, so slowly getting there. The ideal case of course would be that not too many clicks are needed, but they're very cleverly positioned, but I may not be there just yet, which is why a few extra clicks are required. But yeah, okay, so this was I claim the stable switch was a nice addition and caused very good havoc, and I could have probably utilized them even further. I should have created more farms and more fishing ships since I had the top lake to add. This infantry play was just to play to the strength of the civilization, not necessarily the strength of the situation, the game we had in place, but fun game nevertheless. And perhaps next time I'll be able to leave a little less to the chance. But we will see. Alright, so what have we here? So we have played a few games on the ladder, that's very good. We're going to be proud of ourselves. Focusing on not wasting units left and right from the start, that's also a thing that we managed to do. Good for us. Analyzing the games as we go and rejoicing, I'd claim this day a success. Now, I presume that this is going to be a very long-lasting goal to aim at. And also, like, getting the sense of the game. I felt like we were doing good since we were causing damage, killing villagers here and there. But what I did not realize was the amount of fishing ships and the food economy that Colin got from that. So this was a risky game in that sense, and perhaps it could be argued that I could have worked with 2 town centers or even a single town center and just keep producing, but it was of course a very good defensive thing to have once the crossbowmen arrived at my base. But yeah, okay, well, plenty of things to ponder and think about while carrying on with this journey towards if not professionalism, at least more advanced gameplay. Alright, thanks you all, and have a nice evening, and or morning, depends of course. Carry on with your lives, and I hope you have good ones ahead of you, and goodbye.